Do you like movies and games also? This and so much more, they all know. Vyse, Lotus and friends, welcome to Corrective Consciousness.
Welcome to Corrective Consciousness, episode 75, the podcast about our lives and love of pop culture. I'm your host, VyseTheBold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And OldManStompy.
Alright, so we got a different OG3 here today.
What?
It's not the OG3, it's a different OG3.
Oh, okay.
So, why don't we get this road on the show? Go right ahead, OldManStompy. Let's get going.
Really love that expression, don't you? Like, you should. So when that whole like road on the show thing, you should know he also says that before we start the podcast, and we have a whole discussion about how that's not how you say it, and now he still just like shoves it in my face.
Yeah.
Well, how is the audience supposed to hear my witticisms if we do not publish them that way?
They can hear it without you being so brazen about it. Such a flagrant disregard of how the expression actually works.
I'm just dyslexic. I say things backwards.
My dad sometimes does that when we're like going to the mall or whatever. He's like, "Oh, let me look for a sparking pot," and it's like,
That's very annoying.
Yup. His dad is full of dad jokes.
Yeah,
you can tell where he gets them from.
So it's genetic, right?
Oh,
I
for
guess.
sure, absolutely. Well, what did you play this week?
So what did I play this week? So I am definitely making some serious progress in Mario Odyssey with a little bit of free time that I have.
Did you add your cereal to it?
I did not swipe my cereal. I don't take my amiibos out of the box, even if the box is a box.
Yeah,
Even if it's delicious
you should seal the
amiibos.
box in some sort of protective container.
Like, no, you eat the cereal and you preserve the box.
But then it's been opened.
I've been looking for this cereal, and all the weeaboos have snatched it up, unfortunately. So hopefully Kellogg's is smart enough to continue to make this.
This is like an offhand chance that I have like a box clipping from the old Nintendo cereal back from like the late 80s or early
I was actually
90s or
going to bring that up. That commercial,
Yeah.
I don't remember what movie I had it on, but you know, back when you could record movies from TV on VHS, you could just tape what was on TV. I don't even remember what it was we had taped, but that Nintendo cereal commercial was on it. That like, Nintendo, it's a cereal now. I'm like, whoa, what? Like, I was just a little bit too young to have ever actually seen the cereal in person, so I was like, oh.
Yeah, when I was a kid, we had a taped-off copy of Karate Kid, the original.
Oh.
And that's how I watched Karate Kid. I didn't have like a legitimate copy of it.
Yeah.
But it had been recorded before I was born. So like I would watch the whole thing over and over again, fascinated by the commercials for things I had never had any chance of experiencing. And one of them was for maybe it was just when I was born or so. Yeah, that probably makes sense because it had a Master System commercial, and I'd never even seen or heard of a Master System.
Yeah, I never heard of it until I was an adult.
Yeah. So people playing like this weird Space Harrier game like that I had never heard of.
No, I remember
It's
even
pretty awesome.
James Rolfe, the angry Nintendo nerd, like when he was younger, hadn't heard of it, and his friend had one, and he was like, "Whoa, I love the Genesis, but like the Master System," and it's like actually a downgrade. Yeah.
I actually had a friend who when we were like 11 had gotten from his grandfather a ColecoVision, and I thought it was the shit because like I had heard of like Atari, and I thought like Atari was the first system ever. Of course it's not, but like it's the first popular system.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's one of the first mainstream systems. Yeah.
But ColecoVision it was blowing my mind because it had like a Star Trek simulation on it, and I was just like, what is this? You know, like you could do complicated things in it, like fly around the galaxy and all that. So
yeah, I mean, I remember at the time, like I didn't necessarily get them from television, but I have like all these old like these like one-shot magazines that used to get released that taught you like game strategies and things like that. And I would read them and I'd be like, "Oh my god, these games look amazing!" And at the time, like Blockbuster Video didn't really exist, so you didn't really have a lot of
pop
recourse
places.
until Funko Land. Yeah,
mom and pop places, right? Yeah,
yeah, just mom and pop places, and like eventually Funko Land, at least near us, that you could buy like used games from. And I'd like look at these games in the magazine. They look so cool, and like later you have access to like every game via emulation, and a lot of them are just like absolute garbage. But I didn't know at the time.
Yeah, still shots usually look impressive. Like Lester the Unlikely looks kind of all right from a graphical perspective, but then you turn the game on.
Well, actually, one of my favorite things was seeing like it always seemed to me that everybody who owned a Game Boy had a random collection of games, so it would be completely different from one friend would be completely different to another. So like you would see games that you never heard of, like. And I would always love going through my friends' Game Boy games. It's like, geez, I can't rent any of these because no rental place carries them.
There's actually a chance that my first Killer Instinct experience might have been looking at a friend's like Game Boy copy.
Ugh.
It's the same is true for the NES too, right? Like for the NES, I have like Kickle Cubicle, like the Fist of the North Star game.
You actually had Fist of the North Star?
Well, I bought it and I gave it to Perry because he's a big fan of Fist of the North Star. Like, it was
it's
in my collection.
An awful game.
I know. It's not difficult to. At least it wasn't difficult to find when I owned it. So it's not like I was denying myself a piece of gaming history and lore by.
It's like a $3 game still. Yeah. Like it's terrible.
I've mentioned this before that like a lot of I think the NES has not been like hit well by like nostalgia at all. I remember the games I thought were impossible because I was a kid. Like they're either much easier than I remember, having gotten my legs under me as a gamer a little bit more, or they're hard because I just don't enjoy playing them like whatsoever.
Actually, you know what's kind of funny is like I wasn't really an NES kid. I played like a couple of NES games, but when I went back and played Sonic, the Sonic trilogy, like this year, I was like, whoa, these are actually kind of tough. Like, even Sonic 2, which I, like, sleepwalked through when I was a kid, like, I was like, oh, I actually have to put effort into this.
I forget if I mentioned this, but I tried to play Dino City just because of the...
That game's rough.
I had always wanted to because of the JonTron video, and I remember getting, like, almost to the end of the game as a kid on a single Blockbuster rental, because that was, like, one of the first games I bought at Blockbuster, go figure. That was one of my, like, motley assortment of SNES games.
Wow.
Because, like, how am I supposed to know? There's hundreds of games out for every Nintendo console. How am I supposed to know which ones are good or bad?
You didn't watch the movie. How are you supposed to know what the game's all about?
Yeah, and I somehow beat Mighty Max. I somehow had the patience to,
ridiculous.
Like, go through the bullshit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no,
we almost never rented. I think we rented... Well, I forgot if we rented games, actually. Like, I know we rented, like, a system once. We rented an NES for, like, Christmas and New Year's or whatever. And I think we had, like 4 games, if I can remember. There was Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr., which my dad and my uncle played. There was Ninja Turtles 2, which my brother and I played, and my cousins got in on. And there was Ninja Gaiden, which I never understood how hard that game was, because it just, like, it didn't work. Like, I don't know if we were supposed to blow the cartridge or what, but we were just like, oh, shucks, it won't turn on. Like, so I didn't get that childhood trauma of, like, this game's unbeatable.
Mm-hmm. So wheeling back a little bit to the original topic, no, seriously, this is a realistic segue. Like the end of Super Mario Odyssey takes a page from a lot of the recent games. I think starting with Galaxy 2. So Galaxy 2, the very last level, is this like absolute gauntlet of challenges that you have to beat on 1 health with no checkpoints.
Oh no!
Yeah, it's one of the hardest Mario experiences, from what I understand, other than maybe Lost Levels.
Yeah, so it's become like a little bit of a thing in some of the recent 3D Mario games to have like that's called the Grandmaster Galaxy, and there's been like a Grandmaster level. There was one in New Super Mario Land and New Super Mario World, and there was one in Mario Odyssey too. The one in Mario Odyssey is a little bit more forgiving because you actually have a health meter, and they have plentiful health power-ups, but there are lots and lots of places to fall off. It's very, very long, and there are no checkpoints, and it kind of harkens back to like the old Nintendo style of gaming, you know, where you didn't have a lot of checkpoints, and or at best you had a password that you had to remember.
Yeah, even if you made it to a Koopa boss, if you died, you have to do the level over.
And a lot of the time you have a finite number of continues, and if those expire, then you usually have to start the game all over from scratch, unless you're cheating by using the stage select, which is always in the game.
Yeah.
If you know, and you can usually get it by calling like the 900 number and paying $3 a minute for them to read it to you.
Sure.
But like it's not as fun as the rest of the game. Like, the level is really cool. I like this idea of, like, having all these, like, really diverse challenges, which are harder and more interesting, and, like, a final exam of the game itself.
Sure.
But, like, final exams are not fun.
Yeah,
there's
that's
a
the
sense
thing. Like, I could see that being like a post-game level. Like, do you want to try this craziness? But like as a mandatory thing, it's like, all right.
So apparently, if you really want to, you can use the Wii controls. So like the idea is you start by jumping on the frog, and the frog, it starts on the moon, and the frog can jump ridiculously high on the moon. And so you jump up to the top of this cliff, and you can see the goal way out in the distance, and you think, oh, it's just right over there. But you go down this pipe, and the pipe leads you to like 15 different insane platforming segments. But apparently it's possible with the frog to just like jump all the way across this giant gap using the like motion controls to get yourself a little bit extra height. So if you really, really, really want to, you can skip the whole thing.
Well, I mean, it's cool that they give you the option.
I don't know if it's an intended consequence of the motion controls. Like Nintendo is very deliberate with how they design their games, so I'd be surprised if it wasn't. But it's certainly like there's a reason in one of the popular speedrunning categories in Mario Odyssey is to get to the dark side of the moon, not to beat it, because the ideal there's several skips. There's skips within the level itself, and there's the overall one that allows you to skip from the start of the level all the way to the end without doing any of the platforming.
Yeah.
So like it's not really appealing from a speedrunning standpoint, because it would be hard to decide what the like canonical run should be.
Well, that's why in games done quick, a lot of the runs are like, Donkey Kong Country 3, any %, or 103%, or like any % but no warps, and stuff like that. They have like little denominations for each thing.
Right. Yeah, but like for this, where it's only like portions of the level you can skip at a time, it's hard to adjudicate what counts as a skip and what doesn't.
Sure.
So yeah, I thought it was fun. Like I'm at that point, so it's just that and clean up now. So we'll see how I do intend to get to 880, which is the maximum number of moons. But we'll see if I tail off and start playing something else. I did pick up Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Nice.
Yeah, I did too.
Like the Japaneseiest of Nintendo games.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, of course. But it's very
Senran Kagura. Let's say the way Senran Kagura is now.
some of the characters are like literally designed by hentai artists. Like
really?
My sword is a cute girl who has gigantic breasts.
Yeah, it's like what?
Yep.
Also is a rabbit and has weird bullshit feet. Did you see that?
Yeah, the Dahlia one. This was all over Twitter for a while. That you can plot on it's like a linear scale that like the Xeno series has increased in boob size over the course of like with time since Xenogears 1. Especially if you add the boob slider back into Xenogears Chronicles X,
which they took out. Yeah.
Well, for America, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, otherwise there was a WWF pay-per-view last night, and I actually declined to be on the podcast yesterday, specifically because I wanted to watch it, and it was wholly unremarkable, which is the problem of occasionally having C shows in the lineup. So the big shows are the
Which
Royal Rumble. Which
pay-per-view was this?
So this one was called Clash of Champions.
Okay.
It's a pay-per-view where the conceit is that the champions all have to have a match. So the champion can't be involved in a storyline coming into this that doesn't involve the title somehow. And usually that's part of it. It forces some of the heels to defend the titles when usually they're trying to get out of having to have a title match. But so the issue with that is that recently we had Survivor Series, where the whole theme was the champions from the Raw and SmackDown brands went head-to-head against each other, which is a lot more Clash of Champions than anything that the SmackDown brand, which was the one that ran Clash of Champions, could host by themselves. So you have the 4 titles on the line, which is fine. It's interesting to have 4 title matches, certainly. People get excited when a title changes hands or seems to be on the verge of changing hands. But you just had champion versus champion dream matches across both brands just a few weeks ago. And so it's really hard for this pay-per-view to live up to the expectations. And they didn't try to do anything. Sometimes they use these pay-per-views as a vehicle to bring some to do some crazy angle or bring some legend back, just so that people feel bad for not watching the really shit pay-per-views, just for this payoff at the end. Just those television promotions. When you watch a commercial, they say that oh, you have to watch to the end, and you'll see these days it's a movie trailer. A movie trailer will air, and you always know it's going to be in the last 10% of whatever show they're going to air it at to make you watch the whole thing so that you don't miss it.
Sure.
And so they try kind of the same thing with WWF sometimes with the C shows, but no, this time they just put on what was actually a really entertaining championship match from a wrestling standpoint, not necessarily from a storyline standpoint. I mentioned that Jinder Mahal went from like nobody to champion in a very short period of time, and he played this like stereotypical foreign heel. He's a guy from Canada of Indian descent.
Yeah.
And so they said, and so he would like speak in Punjabi to his people in India, and like cut these promos in non-English, which always gets like a lot of heat from the crowds. But like these days, we finally hit the point where that's not working on the preponderance of audiences anymore. Like in the current context of American politics, it looks like really, really passe. We finally hit the flashpoint where you can't get away with that as easily as you used to be able to, where the majority of the fans will just turn the television off if you try some like really pandering bullshit like that. So like he lost the title in a taped match actually in London, which is very surprising, to AJ Styles, who's like their all-star wrestler right now. And his rematch was yesterday at Clash of Champions, and he had a fantastic match, just wrestling as a brawler, not as a foreign heel or anything, relying on interference or like trickery, just as a pure brawler, and it was a really good style that suited him really well. So he lost, AJ kept the title, and he'll move on to some other feud that he'll probably take into WrestleMania. Jinder, like I don't know what he's going to do. I hope that they keep this style because it works really well for him, and I hope he experiences continued success, because it's not his fault that the WWF decided to write him like a really shitty racist gimmick.
Wow.
So, yeah. We've discussed the WWE's tendencies in detail in this podcast many times, so I don't need to belabor that point now.
Sure.
But like the show was fine. I just didn't think it was interesting enough to be worth like dedicating a recon segment to. So we'll save it.
Sure.
Otherwise, the usual. I'm still playing Final Fantasy XIV. I'm near to the end of the 3.0 storyline, which is the main quest of Heaven's Word, the first expansion. So we're getting close. We're getting up to the point where I might actually reach the storyline where the storyline was when I started playing the game in the summer. And I think that means that Minty and I are officially like we've finally lapped Pyro, and, like put him in dead last in storyline progression amongst all the people we know who play semi-seriously. I actually like caught him playing once, and he said that usually he tries not to play when he sees one of us on Steam because he doesn't want to get caught, which is pretty funny.
You don't want to be social in a social driven game.
I actually understand that. I had just gotten like surprisingly stressed out.
His alone time.
Yesterday, because like to me, I was introduced recently to the idea of what's called an anti-pattern. I was introduced to it in work, and an anti-pattern is when you like use a software framework or a database for something that's the exact opposite of what it's designed for. It's called an anti-pattern. Like if your database is used to look up like things in a time series and you're using it to like look up by zip code, that's an anti-pattern. Or like like geographical search, that's an anti-pattern. So to me, like MMO games, social games are an anti-pattern to how I like to spend my leisure time. Because these days, now that I have like a regular 9-to-5 job that requires like an hour commute, like the time that I can spend by myself, doing things that I personally find enriching, are quite rare. And so like giving that time up, knowing that I have like obligations in a social game, it makes it a little bit more stressful than it has to be.
Sure.
And so even when I play Final Fantasy, a lot of the time I want to just they've tried really hard to make Final Fantasy XIV an online game that you can play without interacting with anybody like voluntarily. You can queue for any instanced dungeon that would require other players, like without actually talking to anybody, just winding up at a random party with other single people, so that you never really have to talk to each other. You just do the dungeon.
I do it with other hot singles.
Yeah.
Other hot singles, yes.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, though. Like, I mean, even if I were... Like, I don't play MMOs, but even if I did, like, I like the idea of doing what I want at my own pace. If I want to dick around and do a bunch of weird grindy stuff or side quests or gather items or whatever, there's no way the other 5 people I'm with want to do that all at the same time. So, like, so I won't. Like, whatever. Yeah. You guys go ahead and have your fun. I'll be over here.
So yeah, yesterday I got a little on edge. My computer crashed while I was in a party. And while I was bringing it back, I rushed to bring it back up, which is usually not what you want to do. Like, you want to let your computer close down properly. You want to bring it back up properly. Modern operating systems can handle this, but not over and over again. And so,
sure.
Like, it was really slow when I brought it back up, and, like, they were all waiting for me to come back. I was still technically in the party. I hadn't been booted yet. They were just waiting for me to reconnect. And I was just like, this is not working for me. Like, I can't do this. I can't play tonight. And
Yeah.
eventually, I found out the problem was Chrome. Like, Chrome is an incredibly resource-intensive browser.
It is.
It
somehow runs very quickly, but it also kills everything else.
So, if I'm not mistaken, it does this by running Chrome OS itself. Like, it's running an instance of Chrome OS, and it just uses as much of your system resources as it can manage, which is fine. But if it has, like, any real issues, in my case, the permissions file, since I didn't shut my computer down correctly, the profile, the one that stores your Google profile and your user profile was locked. And Google Chrome couldn't access it, so it was just like it was continually trying to read to the disk, which meant that my startup sequence for my laptop wasn't working correctly. And
Jesus,
and like that's something that you can figure out with a couple of hours, but not when you have like 4 people who are waiting for you to come on to an MMO. So
Yeah.
you know,
it's annoying.
My wife will hear this and she'll be sad that I'm airing my dirty laundry about being stressed out about an MMO on like a public podcast.
You're just sitting there screaming at your screen.
Yeah.
It was actually really funny because my I was at my parents' place for the weekend for the little bit of Hanukkah that we celebrate, and I was just sitting there at the dining room table, just like trying really hard not to swear up a storm at my laptop. I was like, this piece of garbage.
Yeah.
My mom,
Festival of Lights.
My mom really enjoys my personal drama. So like she also used to play MMOs with me, and she and my little sister we played MapleStory, and they had these little chairs you could sit in, and I would like kill enemies and get angry, and they would literally sit in a chair and just watch, like watch me fight enemies and die and get angry.
That's amazing.
This sounds fun to me as well.
So yeah, that's more or less how my week ended, with me raging at my laptop with my wife, my mother, and my sister just like staring and laughing at me.
Gather around the old man as he's cantankerous to everything.
Yeah, old man cranky.
Indeed. So funny story. A totally unrelated friend of mine who doesn't know any of you guys, someone I met back at CERN, was reading One Punch Man, and he got to the most recent chapter, which has Bang in it, you know, the old martial arts.
Yeah, the karate guy, yeah.
And he posted a picture to my wall, and he was just like, "Hey, look, it's Keith." I was like, "Thanks."
Oh, that's pretty good, actually. That's not bad. Yeah.
All right, Lotus, what's going on?
All right, so yeah, I got a few things going on. So first of all, I just started uploading Oxenfree for patrons to view. So give it about a week, and then it'll start going public.
More like oxen for pay.
Until it becomes publicly viewable.
Pay can be used for goods and services.
Get hyped about Oxenfree. That game's pretty rad. I don't want to go too much into it because, I'm just starting to upload it. But otherwise, I was playing more Yakuza 0. The game continues to be fun. I'm curious to how it's going to reconcile things with its own series in the future. For example, in Yakuza 1 and then every game beyond that, there's this place called Purgatory. It's like an underground casino and fighting arena and spy network and this, that, and the other thing. And you don't know it exists in 0, if it even exists yet, because it's like the 80s. But there is an underground, like, catfight club that somebody established. So I don't know if that's going to go out of business or what, but, like, it's never spoken of in Yakuza anything else. It's little things like that I'm curious to see where it goes, if anywhere. But otherwise, I'm just kind of grinding away and beating up Mr. Shakedown, who I have brought up before. He's like 2 heads taller than you, and like he's generally easy to dodge. But if he hits you just once, then it's basically over. Like, he can 1 or 2 shot you. And sometimes if it is 2-shotting, he'll knock you on the ground, and before you can get up, he'll finish you off. It's really frustrating, because you have to fight this guy for, like, minutes. And then all of a sudden, it's like, boom, you're dead. Like, it's so frustrating. But the pay he drops is, like, absolutely insane. Like, it's getting to the point where he's dropping, like, 1.5 billion yen at a time, if I can take him down. So, working on that. Otherwise, I continued my Patreon stream of Furi. The game's freaking radical. So the first time I streamed, I beat 3 bosses, and I beat 3 more this time. I don't know how many bosses the game has, but it continues to be cool with bosses that are unique in their fighting styles, although certain aspects of them are still reminiscent of others. Like, they all have melee attacks you can counter. They all have crazy bullet hell patterns and whatever. So you got to get used to that. But they all have their own identities and attitudes. So I'm curious as to where this game is going to go, because I'm just kind of taking down a boss, going to the next world, taking down a boss. You know, like, that's all the game is supposed to be. But I'm just curious as to what the final person is like, where I'm going with this, even who I am. So I guess we'll see where Furi goes. Otherwise,
That's awesome. I love that game.
It's freaking great. Just, you really got to get good real quick, because, like, these bosses will just beat your ass down. Like, I think I've died at least once on every boss so far. Then finally, not finally, but I was at Mr. Ryu's place before we went to see The Last Jedi. We can mention that a little bit later without spoilers, but before we left and before OldManStompy and Minty Mitch showed up, he showed me the first episode of that American anime you might have heard about, Neo Yokio. Have you guys heard of that?
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I have no context for it.
Oh man,
it's like the one that's like based off of Jaden Smith's like social media profile.
What?
I didn't know it was based off a social media profile, but yes, it's absolutely Jaden Smith.
Wait, what?
It's
that's what you're supposed to feel about it.
Mr. Ryu described the anime as like The Room, the anime, in that it's like unintentionally ridiculous and highly quotable and fun to watch with your friends for that reason. I've only seen episode 1, but yes, is
Jaden Smith actually in it?
Oh, dude, he's the main character.
Oh wow!
Like, I mean, he isn't Jaden Smith. He's Kaz Khan, but he's voiced by Jaden Smith. The writing is hilarious. Like, it's ridiculous. It feels like a fan fiction. Like, there's a part where he's like, oh, this part of the city, or Neo Yokio, or wherever he was. I have a lot of memories of this place. Some of them are happy, and some are quite sad. Like, great writing, A+. It's like little things like that just crack me up. For some reason, the city has this giant like leaderboard that everybody can see of the top X, like the top however many most eligible bachelors. Somehow you could get ranked as more or less eligible than somebody. I don't freaking know. So our hero was number 1, but something bad happened, and now he's number 2, and he's like, oh man, that sucks. But what cracked me up, though, is the guy who is number 1 now is like, I get the feeling he's going to be like the kind of rival, just kind of like a jerk, but like he's super good looking, that kind of stuff. And Jaden Smith had again a great bad line where he's like, 2 is the loneliest number, especially when it's behind a jackass. Like, yes. But the show's
One is the loneliest number.
That's why it's
2 is just as bad as 1.
It's quality writing, I'm telling you. But it's great because like a lot of plot elements are just like hastily thrown together. Like he's feeling out of sorts because he was just dumped, and I don't know if I'm gonna join my field hockey game at the end of the episode. But then he finally does. His team is losing 2-0, but then he comes in partway through the game and is somehow allowed to play despite this. He gets in, immediately scores 2 goals, and then the rival who's on the other team...
2 goals in hockey? Like, that's half the game. What? No.
But then the rival comes and he's like talking smack, and he trips him with his, I don't know what you call it, like the field hockey stick, and he like obviously trips him with it, and everyone's like, what? That's a flagrant foul. And like, sure enough, he gets a foul shot, and I'm like, why would the bad guy just give the other team a free shot? Like, this isn't like Hajime no Ippo, where like you like foul somebody but try making it look like you tripped or something. Like, this guy's just like, boom, push you down. Like, well, now the other team is a free shot, idiot. Like, it's weird stuff like this that makes no sense. That just kind of cracks me up because it's like the writing's ridiculous.
What is this?
It's like this show. I want to see more of this show. Also, you might have seen the meme about like the Toblerone going by. Haven't gotten to that point yet, but apparently he likes eating Toblerones when he's down.
Wow.
I don't know.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, sure. But, like, the fact that they just call it out, like, would you like a Toblerone? Like, it's just little things like that. Like, be quiet and eat your tiramisu. Like, just, like, weird little lines like that. Just, okay. Like, I don't know.
I definitely have breast cancer.
Yeah, I definitely have breast cancer. But the writing of the show is just, like, baffling. And, like, there's this line that comes up 3 times where, like, he's got to exorcise, because he's an exorcist. Did I not mention that? And he's got to exorcise this one person who's possessed. And when they mention who it is, he's like, whoa, I haven't seen her since, like, Freddy's party out in the Hamptons. And then, like, when he finally, like, unpossesses her, like, exorcises her, she wakes up and sees where she is, and she's like, whoa, you? Kaz? Wow, I haven't seen you since that party in the Hamptons. Like, thanks, alright. Like, it's little...
You don't need to repeat this.
That's the thing, they're, like, oddly specific lines that just sound strange when you hear them. Like, that's the only really repeated line, but that's the repeated line. Also,
He's
he's a
my
robot
best
butler
friend.
that he can... Also, he has a robot butler that he can climb on his back and just fly away with, if he wants to, and he does.
What?
It's a great show. I actually genuinely want to watch more of this show. There's like 8 episodes, and so far, episode 1 was a home run. So I'm very excited about this goofy ass fanfic that was made into a professional show. I don't know. The last thing, again, we can dodge around spoilers and only cover basics, but OldManStompy and I, and Minty Mitz, and another friend of ours, Dan, did see The Last Jedi, and apparently it's a divisive movie, but I think what people forget is that every freaking Star Wars movie is the most divisive movie when it comes out. Remember how much everybody loved The Force Awakens, and remember how much everybody hated The Force Awakens, and now everyone's like, oh, but The Force Awakens had at least this, that, and that, and The Last Jedi has got a problem of being this, that, and that. It's just like, shut the hell up and just watch the movie. Like,
Red Letter Media will invariably hate it, but they hate everything. So.
That's the thing. Quit your bitching. Talk to me, and you know what would be even better? Talk to me in 2 weeks, and then tell me what you think of the movie. Because, like,
how about a year? Like when the sheens weren't worn off, you know, like
yeah,
I thought coming out of The Force Awakens, I loved it. And now I think it's a little too cute with the references. But other than that,
I will
like
say
okay.
For The Force Awakens, I liked the movie, but I watched it repeatedly on VHS when I was a kid because it's fucking Episode 4, just straight up. Like, it's a fun movie, but like so was Episode 4, which is the same movie.
No, you mean A New Hope. I'm talking about Force Awakens.
Yeah, like I said, A New Hope. Same fucking movie.
Oh, yeah.
It is A New Hope. I watched
Gotcha.
The Force Awakens when I was a kid. What am I doing here right now? You know? It's a great... Like, Force Awakens was a great movie, but every goddamn thing in that movie was deja vu.
It's kind of like watching Creed, and Creed's a really great movie, too, but it's also a remake of Rocky. I mean, it's basically a remake of Rocky, even though it's a sequel of Rocky.
No, like, with the
Rocky
Last
7,
Jedi...
but it's
with The
also
Last Jedi, there are whole scenes that clearly pay homage to other scenes. Like, you watch this whole thing go down, and you're like, oh, I remember this bit from that other Star Wars movie, but the overall movie was its own thing, at least. It like, heavily referenced other movies several times, but the whole goddamn thing wasn't another movie, so it gets points for that. And it was actually fun to see where they went with the characters.
I would say, obviously, we don't want to go into strong detail because Vyse has not seen this movie.
I don't know anything about the movie, really.
I think that, just generally speaking, like, part of the idea was to have Force Awakens and to set up a trilogy a lot like The New Hope set up. A New Hope set up the original trilogy, and then to have you go into Episode 8, The Last Jedi, expecting something like The Empire Strikes Back in a similar fashion, and then to subvert your expectations. So
yeah. Well, not yet.
Like, I think it was all very deliberate, even though they had very different directors who were allowed a lot of leeway in how they chose to take their characters.
And to be fair, like, Episode 7 probably was supposed to be like Episode 4, just to be like, see, I know how to make an old school Star Wars movie. It was just really heavy-handed with it. The Last Jedi, again, had large swaths that were like, oh, this scene looks like that other scene from an older movie, but, like, overall, it was its own thing. And I actually really liked where it went with, well, I'll say development of certain characters. There were a couple that were like that made decisions that I kind of questioned, but some character development I thoroughly enjoyed. Like with any Star Wars movie, you hear some of the fan complaints, and like it makes you wonder how much they know about Star Wars. Like, oh, look at the comic relief. Yeah, the original trilogy never had any of that.
Plenty of comic relief.
Yeah,
they were called the droids.
Yeah, exactly. C-3PO and, to a lesser degree, R2-D2 were the comic relief. They're like,
R2-D2 was the only character that was allowed to curse.
Yeah, basically. I think they actually... I think there was actually a part in The Last Jedi where they're like, oh, watch your language with R2. But yeah, they were like, oh, there's so many silly moments. I'm like, yeah, because episode 4 was like deadly serious the whole time. Like, it was a little more low-key with its jokes, I'll give it that. But like, the jokes were all over the place. Don't even try that with me. And my favorite was like, you know how The Force Awakens had Snoke? Like, as the... Of course, Snoke is in The Last Jedi as well. I'm not going to say what he did or anything, but, like, of course he's here, too. They introduced him, and now there's more of him. But, like, one of the complaints I saw about Snoke is that, like, you don't really, like, you know how he's the Emperor Palpatine analog?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's like Snoke's supposed to be this big, badass Force user, and, like, you don't even really know anything about him. I'm like, oh, yeah, unlike Emperor Palpatine, like, who you know
just
everything.
saw a hologram of.
Like, I mean, they
Empire Strikes
retroactively gave him a history with the prequels, but, like, you didn't know jack shit about Palpatine. Like, Luke walks into his room, and you're like, oh, I can tell this guy's a big deal. It's like, it's the same idea with Snoke, and, like, so what are you even complaining about? Like, that thing you hate about Snoke, which is, like, your favorite part of the original trilogy, shut the hell up. Like, there are certain complaints which I 100% agree with, and I'm not going to go into specifics because some of them are spoiler related, but then there are complaints like that where it's like, do you even understand what you're complaining about? There actually is one thing that's a shame. There is one complaint that I saw from a particular YouTuber that I really want to address, but like, It depends on your viewpoint of whether it's a major spoiler or not, so I'm not going to touch it.
Don't.
But like, yeah, I'm not going to go into it.
I don't know anything about the plot. I don't know.
I would argue it's inconsequential, but if you don't know, it's like what you were saying about Blade Runner concerning a certain character's identity. It's revealed in the first 5 minutes, but if you don't know going in, it's like, oh, spoiler. Like it's like kind of like that.
Yeah,
so like, yeah, no. But overall, I had fun with The Last Jedi. I mean, we'll see what happens the next time I see it, whenever that is. I haven't even seen The Force Awakens a second time, so God knows when or if that'll happen. But, like, maybe my opinion will change later. But, like, overall, I had fun with the movie. You know, it's a Star Wars movie. It's got Star Wars stuff.
Obviously, I was there too.
Yeah.
I mean, so I remember I was split also on the first two new Star Wars movies. You know, I was a decent fan of The Force Awakens. I didn't mind the fact that it was a retelling of A New Hope with new characters, because I think that was part of the point. I remember being highly critical of Rogue One. I thought like a lot of it was gratuitous and unnecessary, although the general idea of the storyline was strong.
Yeah, Rogue One really did feel like do you understand that reference? Like the whole movie.
And it kind of like skidded around from place to place a little bit too fast. I felt like it just crammed too much into it.
Also, I couldn't tell you a single character's name in that movie.
Well, they're not as important. They're all there to die. That's not really the point. Yeah. But The Last Jedi, I would say, like, the only thing, you know, I only want to talk about the movie in very broad strokes, you know, for Vyse's sake, and also for our viewers who aren't listening to this podcast.
Yeah, we're recording this just past opening weekend, so not everybody saw this yet.
With the privilege of getting to see the movie, at least usually you want to wait 2 or 3 weeks until the movie is like largely out of theaters, and most people have. Well, you know, most movies are out of theaters after 3 weeks. Obviously, The Last Jedi will probably be in theaters.
Yeah, it'll last a little longer. Yeah,
but my general the thing that I'm the most wary about, obviously, I gave my opinion as to what I thought was like a good aspect of the movie, that it sort of plays off of it juxtaposes itself against your expectations versus like the Empire Strikes Back. What concerns me, and I'm not I can't take credit for this. It's not an original thought. I read it on Facebook somewhere. The idea that like Disney as like the new caretakers of Star Wars, along with like a host of other properties, is like using this trilogy to slowly transition Star Wars from George Lucas's baby to some like new like monolithic like franchise.
It's to non-trilogy status where it's like something new every year.
Yeah, into something like the Avengers, where the whole point is to just like have this multimedia franchise that just like invades every corner of the zeitgeist.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, as opposed to like the self-contained stories of the first two trilogies, or you know, the first two trilogies as the story of Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah.
Sure. Well,
that's my week anyway. One other thing I will say though.
One more thing
about the trailers, not the Last Jedi, the trailers. Number one, there were 25 fucking minutes of trailers, but other than that, there was one particular trailer that was just like, the coolest. Like, my brother immediately dismissed it as, like, no, this is dumb. But, like, I thought it was, like, the greatest trailer in the entire group. The one we talked about, OldManStompy, Mortal Engines.
Yeah, that was insane.
Oh,
like, not
my
that
God.
I got... Not that I was able to get that excited about it, but it was just so out there, and they showed you so little of the actual movie that,
like it looked like a
You were
Mad
making
Max
a movie in your
sequel.
head based off of what
Imagine if World War II was like a monster truck rally.
Yeah, I seriously thought that it was a sequel to Mad Max Fury Road. Like, that was my first thought.
Wow.
Because, like, you see, like, this tree. It was one of those, I forgot what it's called. It's a very particular kind of tree, the kind, like, that African-specific tree that you see in, like, The Lion King, you know? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Sure.
You probably know what I'm talking about. You see one of those, but then you see, like, a vehicle just run over it like it was just part of some scrub brush, and I'm like, whoa, what? And, like, this thing's huge. But then you see it's being chased by an infinitely bigger vehicle, and I'm like,
It's worth mentioning that the first vehicle looks like a tiny mobile castle.
Yeah,
like,
and it's being chased by, like, but I mean, basically, you know the opening scene, you know the opening scene of A New Hope where you see a spaceship fly by, and then the Star Destroyer, and you're like, what? Like, it was basically that. Like, you know how the Star Destroyer is so big that it just, like, eats that rebel ship, it just, like, sucks it up into it.
Sure.
Basically, that happens, and it's like, what is this movie? And that's kind of all you get. There's something else they mention. Well, they mentioned what the bigger vehicle is. I'm not going to say that because it's kind of too good. You'll probably see it, and if you really want to see it, you don't have to go to the theater. You could probably YouTube it right now. But, like, when someone asks what that bigger vehicle is, the answer is like, what? Like, it's amazing. It was like, you have my attention, Mortal Engines. Like, I'm super hyped now. Even if the movie sucks, it's like Hardcore Henry. I'm like, I gotta see what this is.
Hardcore Henry was great.
Yeah,
yeah. You know, the problem with trailers these days is that, like, they usually expose most of the best jokes in a comedy and most of the best scenes in an action movie. So, like, the best trailers are the movies the best trailers these days are the trailers that are basically short films with a thesis of you want to go see this movie.
Yeah, actually, Star Wars Force Awakens had one of the best trailers I've seen in a while, because they revealed a lot of stuff about the lore without revealing anything about the plot.
Yeah, that movie has like is like a 2-minute short film, you know, with its own score, where the goal is to make you want to go see Force Awakens and get excited about it.
And you know what I thought was one of the coolest things about the Force Awakens trailer was the first thing you see is when, you know, that stormtrooper runs up to the camera, takes off his helmet, and you don't know who he is. Like, you know, it's Finn, but, like, you don't know who it is. You just see some guy like, oh, and like, oh, okay, we're not dealing with clone troopers. Like, immediately, like, I've learned this. Like, and I don't know anything about this movie, but I know that. Like, it's little things like that Star Wars Force Awakens trailer did brilliantly. But yeah, Mortal Engines, look up that trailer. It looks freaking cool. Also, a Peter Jackson movie? Okay.
Oh, I'm sure it'll be great.
You have my attention.
I'm glad that he's out from under the thumb of Lord of the Rings now, because it seems to be like his spirit, but with a big budget.
Yeah,
he was always making stupid, goofy bullshit before he was making the
Lord
of the Rings
this
movies,
looks like high budget bullshit, and I'm all for
which
it.
I'm happy for. Yeah,
this looks cool as shit. Like, I really thought it was some sort of Fury Road sequel. It's not, but after learning that it wasn't, I was like, I'm still okay with this. So yeah, anyway, that's been my week. How about you, Vyse?
I'm glad I finally got to speak. Anyway, so I finally beat Metroid: Samus Returns.
Hey.
So I stuck with the video game and I beat it again. I beat Far Cry 4 recently, and now I beat Metroid: Samus Returns. So I more and more liked the game as I went along, because more and more of the unique boss encounters showed up. Did you end up beating it, OldManStompy? I know you were playing it too.
Yeah, I think I talked about it on the podcast too.
Okay.
I definitely beat it a couple months ago.
Okay, so I ended up getting 100% on the exploration and items. I did not beat it quickly, so I didn't get, you know, a stripped down Samus, but I hardly ever play a game for speed, so that's not something that is important to me. So I was actually, it was kind of funny. I don't want to ruin anything, but I was kind of wishing, like, towards the end of the game, after when I was finishing things up, I was like, I kind of wish this would happen, but I was like, and knowing that I knew the original version of the game, I was like, nah, that just won't happen, and then it does, and I'm like, whoa,
yeah, that is kind of
nice. Shed a brick. Yeah.
So actually, as I recall, I'm sure I can think of like one or two things that you're that can be what you're referring to.
Yeah,
and they were both like complaints that the guy who did AM2R, like that people said they should have put in the game, and then he didn't because it would have been gratuitous. But then Nintendo went ahead and put them officially in the game. It's actually like you remember in Zero Mission, which is the most recent remake of Metroid 1. There's a whole like postscript chapter that ends with kind of the same way Samus Returns ends, with this like extra boss fight out of nowhere.
Yeah, so I absolutely loved the extra boss fight. I thought it was great. Really good boss fight too. It's not my favorite of the game. I actually really like the grinder a lot still. The mining,
right.
The mining thing. But that thing was really cool because it was a really neat puzzle boss and it had a lot of phases and it was really difficult. I really found it to be pretty challenging and I enjoyed it. But the last battle was awesome and it was difficult and like it should be. So I was very happy that it happened. More and more I like that game as I played it, but I feel like it took too long to get going. I think they should have put more of the unique boss battles towards the beginning of the game. I know maybe they're trying to subvert expectations, but there's a lot of room for unique boss battles to be put in that game because you have so many of the the rote extinction battles. So eventually you get the hang of those and you just want to beat them and get them out of the way. But the unique boss battles are really the shining parts of that game. So I ended up enjoying it. I loved it. I will probably not play it on the harder levels, but I'm glad that I was able to unlock some of the special features with the amiibos, which is pretty neat. And those amiibos are hard to get a hold of now.
I would generically agree that like the game, like the game's biggest problem, and I know you talked about this before, is pacing. Like I like that the unique boss battles are like loaded towards the end because it gives the game a bit of an like escalation. Like the worst part of the game is around like area 3 or 4 when you've just waded through like basically 24 Alpha and Gamma Metroids, and then once you hit like area 5, which is where you get like the power bomb and the gravity suit and the space jump in like very quick succession, the game escalates very quickly. You start fighting the Zeta Metroids, the Omega Metroids, like all these like, and then it continues to evolve into fighting the Grinder, into fighting the Queen Metroid, into the post original game, like actually canonical real game, and it gives the game a climax that it didn't really have before.
Yeah, I agree. I do like AM2R's version of... I first of all like the unique battles in AM2R a lot, but I do like the unique ones in this one a lot too. So I'm kind of glad that both games have a chance to exist because I feel like the mother, the Queen Metroid in AM2R was amazing. It was really, really good, and this one was good, but it wasn't that. The one in AM2R has multiple phases, and it chases you down a hallway, and nice. it does all kinds of neat things that the Game Boy could never do. And this one was very similar to the original Game Boy. It was confined to one room. It of course had some really neat, QTE of kind of things going on and reaction events, but it was good, but it wasn't AM2R's final battle, which was a lot of fun. But I overall didn't regret that I had played through it, and in fact it was very surprised and elated that it was as good as it was towards the end. I did want to say that I started a new game, Nex Machina. I don't know. I know Lotus has heard of this. OldManStompy, have you heard of this?
Yeah, I've heard of it just because the developers for it did something else that I picked up for free on Steam, but it escapes me what that is.
Oh, I didn't know about that. I'll have to look into that. But so Nex Machina is basically a re-envisioned version of like Robotron, the original Robotron arcade game. So it's a very difficult first twin stick shooter. It's a lot of fun. You basically go into an arena every level or every bit of level, and you have to kill the bad guys. And you don't move on until you kill all of the enemies that show up, out of all the waves that show up. And there is kind of a defender element as well. You have to, or Robotron actually had this too, where you have to collect humans, and save them before they get killed. So you basically, the first thing you want to do when you go into every arena is save all the humans, get like the bonus for getting them all in quick succession, and then you whittle down the bad guys and then leave one or two bad guys standing so you can actually explore the arena, because there's like a lot of hidden stuff to the periphery that you have to shoot. And that in where lies the big fun of the game, is that it has exploration elements, even though it's in a confined arena. You have to shoot things on the outside of the arena and try to unlock hidden areas, kill. There's multiple things you need to collect by killing it. So there are these arrays that you need to kill like 3 arrays every world. It's really neat. It's an arcade game. I love games like this. I was a big Geometry Wars fan, and I particularly love the Geometry Wars for the Wii, and also Geometry Wars 3, because they added a lot of stuff to them. And this game is right up there with those games. It's really cool. I definitely recommend it if anybody likes this type of game. It's also one of those games that's very difficult. So it's basically meant for you to die a lot and then get better at. So you by and large learn how to play it. There's like a lot of high level techniques, just like Furi or something like that. And the boss battles are a lot of fun too. So I played a lot of that. And I started Horizon Zero Dawn, which is going to be my new long-form game. So Pyro's played this as well. I think he just started playing the DLC.
Nice.
I'm very, very happy to play a game once all of its DLC is already out. I think that's the best time to play the game, so I don't have to replay it or get back into a game I already beat.
Yeah, exactly. So, like we've mentioned this before, but like Dark Souls, like finally the DLC is out, let me play it, and it's like way harder than what you're used to, and you're out of practice. Like, oh no.
Yeah. I'd rather just play it all at once, because I don't like it's like Zelda. I haven't gone back to it, even though there's 2 major DLC packs.
Yeah.
And I bought them. I'll go back to them eventually, but I really like this game. It's really fun. I like the hunting in it probably better than any other hunting in any other game. There's actually a point to hunting. Like, if you come across an animal, you should hunt it, because you will be able to use it for something. There's lots and lots and lots of upgrades. So much so that like you could probably spec instead of collecting all the upgrades. Whereas most adventure games aren't like that. Most adventure games have a finite number of upgrades, and you can basically max out everything. You can min-max very easily in most adventure-style games. You're kind of supposed to. You can pick what you want early on to be strong in whatever, but eventually, you can level up all the way. Well, this game makes me think that you can only really do that if you put in a lot of effort for it. But it's just a joy to play. Hunting the machines is a lot of fun. It kind of gives you the feeling of because the machines actually travel in herds, or at least in the beginning of the game, it gives that feeling that you're an Indian brave. which is really neat. And I think that's what the game was getting at, because your tribe, people in your tribe are called braves that hunt. So it's great that they make you have that feeling. The mission accomplished. You're hunting these herds of. It's like hunting a herd of buffalo or something. It's fun and it's rewarding, and it's also has its pitfalls too. So it's a blast to play. I've only played all the basically the very beginning of the game, but I had tons of stuff to do, so I played it for hours. Yeah. It's kind of like Xenosaga Chronicles in that way. Xenoblade Chronicles. I'm sorry. In that way, in that. There's so much to do in the first area. I don't even want to progress the story because I can just collect things.
That's like how it is in Yakuza. Chapter 1 is the tutorial chapter, and then you beat the first boss, and then chapter 2, all of a sudden there's 1,000 things to do, and you're like,
Yeah, I mean, that's the real fun of these types of games, I feel. So I am having a blast doing the missions and the side quests and stuff like that, and just having a good time. It's really cool. I can't wait to play more of it, but it's been great. Last thing is I wanted to quickly mention that my girlfriend and I are coming off of a New York trip. We like to New York a lot, and a lot of our friends are up there, including you, OldManStompy. And we like to say that we would like to go once a month or once every 2 months at least. And my girlfriend really wanted to go, with Rockefeller Center with the tree all done up, and all that. And so we had a blast. We had a really good time. I should also add that our relationship is progressing really, really well. We've already decided that we're going to move in with each other. So this is a really big thing, especially for listeners, because I was dating around when the show first started. So you can really see the progression of my weird dates going into it.
Vyse's character arc is moving.
Yeah, it's a good relationship, and it's been great. No complaints at all. I just have such a good time spending time with her. And we are getting ready to do these things and start our life together, and live with each other. And we've gone on a few trips with each other, and things have gone well. So while we were there, it was actually snowing. It was the first major snow of the year. So it was really cool that we were doing Christmassy things, because it was really romantic to have the snow falling while we were doing it.
Did you do Home Alone 2 Christmassy things?
Yeah, we saw a lady with a bunch of bird poop all over her, and she saved us from Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern.
And you went to Duncan's toy store.
Meanwhile, Macaulay Culkin was recently actually at a wrestling event doing Home Alone stunts.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
And he body slammed a little person.
Yep. He did the golf balls on the floor and the paint cans in a real wrestling match.
And people were like, Home Alone, Home Alone.
I think my favorite part is that that's I guess that's apparently allowed. Just crack somebody with a paint can.
Well, there are lots of no disqualification wrestling matches.
Yeah.
It was it was a mixed tag team match too, so usually the rules are a little bit looser.
Mm.
But that was great. We went to Bryant Park, which had a holiday village in it, which was basically a whole bunch of artisan stores, little ones where you could buy food at food stalls and stuff like that, and unique items and artsy things and cool things like that. We went by a Japanese store, where they had a lot of Japanese goods, and immediately caught the eye of my girlfriend, which is funny because she's not she's not into Japanese culture like we are. And she's not into anime at all or anything like that. She's not into video games,
you should probably
manga,
show Yokio.
anything like that. What? Oh,
no, you shouldn't.
But she immediately catches out of the corner of her eye this thing on the wall, and I'm like, oh god, what is this? And it turns out that it's a place that sells really high quality Japanese fluffy onesies. Done in the style of a bunch of different animals. And the funny thing is, I had been thinking to buy something like that for her, just for the winter, just to be cute for Christmas. And it turns out they had a manatee one, and her favorite animal's a manatee. And I was like, I'm buying that for you. That's it. And God, is she cute in that thing. It's hilarious. It comes with like a detachable leaf that you could put in your mouth. Like it has a hood.
That's pretty good.
It's really cute, and it's really, really warm and snuggly. She absolutely loves it. So I was so happy to get it for her. She was really excited.
Well, now you gotta go live in Florida because that's where manatees are.
We actually saw one when we were down there.
Hey,
while we were on the Wave Runner. And we did a bunch of other stuff. I mean, we went to a Nintendo World Store, which we always do, and she picked up the big Boo this time because she got a small one and wasn't satisfied.
If only it were a little bigger.
Boo. Yeah, it was awesome. Like,
but it's useless whenever she looks at it. So
it's kind of great because. Like before I met her, she was like a fully formed adult, and I have regressed her into being a child again, which is I think part of the reason why our relationship works is that like she realizes how much fun it is like to do things like this,
Yeah.
So now like she didn't have one single stuffed animal before we started going out, and now she has like an entire armchair full of them.
And
like whenever we go to round one, she's like, "Oh, I want that one. Oh, I want that one." Like it's always been, it's been a lot of fun.
You should get her a big Bowser stuffed plushie, and then tell her that Bowser's laugh is the same as Boo's, only slow down.
I actually did mention that too.
Yeah.
But she's like, "What kind of sound does Boo make?" I was like, "Actually,
Bowser's but sped up." Yeah, it's the other way around. Bowser's sped up. Yeah.
And we also got to make reservations for our friend Perry's jazz bar that he works at as a bartender. And we had dinner there. We had burgers, and he made us special drinks all night long while there was live jazz playing. It was a fantastic romantic evening. It was really, really cool. And Perry got to nerd out by making stuff he normally doesn't get to make these kinds of things. He basically makes things up or can basically get make drinks that he wouldn't normally get to make, nerdy drinks, like liquor nerdy drinks, because everybody just orders like a gin and tonic or something like that, So it was so much fun. And the very next day we also went to Beard Papa's. I don't know if you guys know what this is.
I've only been to Beard
OldManStompy,
Mama's.
have you ever been to Beard Papa's?
I haven't been, but you talked about it the last time you mentioned your New York trips. The one that we went to with anchovy pizza. We had a whole recon episode about it.
Well, I'll reiterate. It's a Japanese cream puff.
That's right. Yeah, I mentioned that. Yeah.
And we just had a great time having breakfast there. So fantastic trip that we had, and loving every minute of spending time with her and doing these things. So can't wait to begin our lives together in the same place. I miss her all the time when she's not around, so it's a good sign. But having said that, let's move on to a question here.
Yeah, we have time for one. Insane Buffoon asks, what are your feelings toward achievements or trophies in games? Do you love or hate them? Are you indifferent to them? Do they make you try things that you wouldn't do otherwise, like play on higher difficulties, etc., etc.? With my take, I think it's very context specific. When I first learned about achievements, I was like, well, I want to play the game the way I want to play them. But at the same time, some achievements are just like, play the game on a harder difficulty, and like I don't feel like doing that. But there are ones that might call out aspects of the game you might not be aware of, or like the Binding of Isaac. Like every unlock you have is an achievement, so like the achievements are directly tied to progression. So like I like some achievements. Like, it really depends what game I'm playing and what they ask of me. Like, if it's going to be something like Zombie, like, beat the game on the 1 life difficulty, like, no, fuck you, I'm not even going to try. But there are some things which are kind of cool to say that you got. And, like, it is cool, for me at least, to try to get every achievement in the Demon's Souls, Dark Souls games, because those involve killing bosses and making cool weapons out of their stuff. You actually have something to show. Like, what does it mean when you got this achievement? Oh, let me show you. Let me pull out this cool weapon I have. Like, that kind of thing. So I like the achievements that actually have content attached to them, or at least something you could see in the game attached to them.
I tend to agree. I don't like the ones that are superfluous and are just collecting for collecting's sake.
Yeah.
But I do like them with certain games, like arcade type games, you know, like a game like Nex Machina, or a game that's highly skill based, like Furi, or a game like Binding of Isaac, or any other shmup, let's say. Like, the idea of most shmups is basically to get better and better at them. So most of the achievements that are in those are basically pushing you to get better. So I like him in that context. I think for arcade type games, they're a fantastic idea. And I think it's just it's like any other part of any other game, really. They have to be designed well for them to be compelling.
Yeah,
and for you to want to constantly do them.
Well, speaking of which, like, there's one OldManStompy likes to talk about where, like, sometimes the achievements are integrated into the game's writing itself, right? Like OldManStompy, that Portal 2 one.
I love talking about things. Why don't you just go ahead and and do my bit for me?
All right, okay. I was offering, but all right. Yeah, there's a part in Portal 2 where
and then he continues on, even though he gave you a great segue.
So just tell me to do the thing. You want to do the Portal 2 thing?
Well, I can think of the one where I can think of several, like in Portal 2. Yes, they're evolved into the narrative in some cases, like the chapter that's called like the one where he kills you.
That's the one. Yeah.
The achievement you get is like the one is called like he kills you or something like that.
Yeah, like there's a part where a character says, well, this is the part where I kill you, and then the chapter title comes up, the part where he kills you, and then achievement, the part where he kills you. It's like,
so
yes.
like that segment has some humor to it, but largely like that's my least favorite kind of achievement, the one that you get just for playing the game. And I never really thought about it before until like one of the indie game designers I followed mentioned that like when he puts achievements into his game, he doesn't make games on Steam or anything. He just makes like these free games he likes to give away on his website. And he did Distorted Travesty, if you know that. It might have been in one of the GDQ marathons. It's definitely been at least. It was in the really really long-a-thon, the Baten Kaido's 100% one.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But he's been noted as saying that like he wants the achievements to be like these really obscure things that you'd really have to go out of your way to find, because why is the game giving you an achievement for something that you should be doing anyway? If you need that achievement to get you just to like beat chapter 1 or chapter 2 or chapter 3, then the game isn't doing a very good job of rewarding you like within its own narrative.
Well, yeah,
and, like,
you're continuing to play the game, but yeah.
The Portal case is like a rare exception because it plays into the humor of the game.
Yeah, that's why I was okay with that one. Yeah.
It gives you the repetition, you know, of the part where he kills you, like 1, 2, 3. It's a rule of 3 joke.
The only problem is you can't do that ever again. You know, if you play the game a second time, you're just not going to have that.
Yeah, I actually can point to a specific achievement that is kind of like, the Portal ones that I particularly really enjoyed, because it was like, oh shit, like, because it's like the game designers talking to you while you're playing. Like, that's their way where they could break the fourth wall, right? So, one of my favorites is I was playing Dead Space 2.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm fighting these necromorphs that are basically like raptors from Jurassic Park, and I was like, I'm playing this. I'm like, I know I feel nostalgic for something here. And then I'm like, towards the end, I was like, these are like raptors from Jurassic Park. This is great. And then when you beat them, it goes clever girl. I was like, oh shit! Like, mission accomplished.
Yeah, well,
like,
so in that vein, I like the kind of achievements where the developer acknowledges the player. I like the kind of achievements where like in a game you're convinced that you can do something, but you're not sure that it's actually possible, and then you go like way out of your way to try to do it, and you think that like there's no way the developers intended you to do this.
Yeah, I broke
and then
the
you
game.
get achievements for it, and you're like, nope, I guess you're one step ahead of me.
I can actually think of a couple of achievements that I really enjoyed, and one where it almost had a reverse effect. So for enjoyment, I mentioned last week in Yakuza, if you ever watch those like sexy videos of the girl at the video store, then the achievement comes up that says, I just did it for the trophy, which is like the game just calling you out on like a guilty pleasure. But there were a couple of others that I thoroughly enjoyed. One of them was, again, a one-time humor bit, but there's a part in Act 2 of Dread Out where your friend's been possessed and you're talking to her, and you're having this like dialogue-based conversation where you choose options, and there's a part where you're telling the ghost to like get out of your friend, and the ghost is like, do you even really know your friend? Do you even care about this person? Here's one. What's her phone number? Why don't you tell me what her phone number is? And you actually have the opportunity to type it in, and there's no freaking way you're gonna know this because it shows it for like a second at the beginning of like Act 1, which is almost like a different game at this point because it came out like months earlier, maybe a year. But if for some reason you actually get the number, then she goes like, all right, fine, well done, achievement unlocked, and like at that point the achievement actually pops up, which is kind of great. One example of an achievement I really was not a fan of was like, this is kind of hard to describe, but if parts of the game like have nothing to offer but the achievement, and what I mean by this is I was playing Fez, and that game is pretty rad, but there's no way that I'm doing this without a guide. Like, there's too much obtuse bullshit. So I actually managed to get, again, with heavy uses of guides, I managed to get every single cube, every single anti-cube in the game, and there's this one particular area that, like, there are doors that are locked and you need X number of cubes to unlock them, and it's like Mario Odyssey. Like, you can beat the game with way fewer than 100%. Like, you don't need to perfect the game to beat it. But there's this one door where you need everything, and I finally open it, and I go in, and there's nothing there. Like, it's just a room. And I'm like, where's my payoff? And then I realized, wait a minute, I downloaded this from GOG. This is probably the part where I would get an achievement. But I just have nothing. So I put in all this effort for, like, a freaking closet. Like, it was really disappointing. So, I will point out one more really cool achievement, though. This cracked me up. Have you guys heard of the game, I think it's available on Steam and maybe GOG. Have you heard of Invisible Inc., like Incorporated?
Mm-hmm. I have, but
because it's this spy espionage game, and there was one achievement that nobody could figure out how to get. Like, even when they looked up online what the achievement was called, like, they had no clue how to get the game. Hey, OldManStompy, what's up?
No, please continue. I just want to.
Oh, just you're gonna come in.
I want a story after.
Sure. So they had
serve me up another segue.
Yeah. So people had no clue how to get this achievement, and they were looking it up, and nobody could help them on forums or whatever. Eventually, somebody just went like into the game's config folder and manipulated some files to get the achievement, and everyone was like, "Well, okay, you got it, but that's bullshit." But it turns out that's actually how you're supposed to do it. Like, it's kind of like in the original Deus Ex. The only way to activate cheat codes is to, like, activate them in the config menu, the ability to type them in. So you actually had to use your, like, spy skills and go into the game's code and manipulate it to allow the achievement to unlock, which is pretty clever. So that's an example of what I thought was a pretty cool meta achievement.
Yeah, the other one is that I'd like to mention is a game which is notorious for being extremely meta in the first place, which is the Stanley Parable. That has like several really hilarious achievements, like one of which is literally termed to be impossible to get. I don't think like anybody's actually found like a real trigger in the game that gets you that achievement. It just sits unachieved on Steam for the rest of your life. There's one that requires you to play like not play the game for like several years. And then there's
it
one
just unlocks.
Like, yeah, just after if you just like wait, or I mean, you can change your computer, your PC clock, and it'll be fine. But so you can get it, but like, what's the point?
Yeah,
like so. And there's one where the text of the achievement just says something like "click on door 408," like try to open door 408 because you start out in an office. And if you do that, like the narrator, because that's the whole point of the game, you have this narrator who's interacting with you as the player and like trying to like stay a step ahead of you. He gets like really frustrated that like you don't deserve an achievement for that. Why don't you go click on door 403 now? And he's like, okay, you go do that. And then he's like, okay, now jump on the printer. Now like sprint across the room. Now like jump in front of the window. And he gets like really into it for a while. And he's like, now click on the door 5 more times. And like this goes on for like 5 or 6 minutes.
And so then it makes that like that old timey funny like Windows sound, like beep. But anyway, what I was just gonna make one final point about this. The one thing that I really don't like about achievements in general is the permanence of them. I think it robs you of experiencing the achievement hunt a second time.
Well, no, exactly. I've seen a lot of people on forums say, I wish there were a way to delete your achievements or something.
Yeah, I think that is a major flaw, because like a game like Binding of Isaac, like getting through all of the achievements is the game, basically.
Well, with the Binding of Isaac, it's a little different, because every time you would get an achievement, when you die or quit the game or beat it, then a thing, like just an in-game notification pops up, so you still have that.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, games like that, right?
Yeah.
Are entirely built around, the skill that you've built up over time, or I'm never gonna get a chance to show somebody that clever girl achievement. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, like when it contextually pops up. Yeah.
Yeah, it stinks, because and playing Portal 2, you're never gonna experience those again. You only get to experience them once.
You have to make like a new PlayStation profile. It's like, get out of here.
Yeah, nobody's gonna do that.
Yeah,
and
why? Some games like The Binding of Isaac, they tie the achievements into an in-game achievement, so that if you play the game a second time, you get the in-game achievement.
Well, no, that's what I said. A notification pops up like in-game anyway. Yeah, you just don't get the satisfaction of going to your Steam profile and like, yeah, like.
Right. I think that's one thing that like Nintendo's way of doing it, even though it's not a universal way of doing it. It might be so. The way Nintendo does it is that they basically give you license to set up achievements if you want them in the game, essentially. If you want achievements, put them in. And they put achievements in their own games. But it's not tied to a global profile.
Well, yeah, what I kind of liked was, I was going to mention that. Like, Resident Evil, I don't remember if Umbrella Chronicles did it, but I'm pretty sure Darkside Chronicles did. It had its own in-game achievements that weren't tied to anything. If I delete my save data, then the achievements are wiped, and I could do it again if I wanted to, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, I think that's a major flaw in them. I mean, I overall, I think they're a good thing. I mean, especially since they give different types of players other goals as well. So, not everybody plays games the same way.
Yeah.
So first of all, you getting mad that there are achievements is kind of crummy.
So
because,
don't get them. So don't just play the game.
That's a dumb thing to be mad at, because it's not there for you. It's an alternate way to play the game that somebody else can enjoy. So let them have that.
Well, the only thing I would complain about with achievements existing is, like OldManStompy was saying, the mandatory ones, but like I was playing Silent Hill Downpour, and
it doesn't fit with that.
I'm getting all invested. I'm like, oh, Silent Hill, and it's like, clink, you beat the first chapter. I'm like, what? Oh, come on, like. Like that, like this is like a video game. I'm like, all right,
Xbox
thanks.
360, plink.
Well, yeah, I mean, for me it was a PlayStation, but like it's the same. Like it's just this little message pops up. It's like, oh, like that does take me out of it. But I guess that it still only happens once, so there is that. Although one other thing though, I think we kind of mentioned this, but some achievements are cool because they can inform people about other aspects of the game. Like,
sure.
We had mentioned before, our friend Luminaire gets into like Call of Duty's the various Call of Duty Black Ops' like zombie modes, and one of the zombie modes he was playing was I forgot what Black Ops 2 maybe, but like whatever the one is where you're in Alcatraz and you have to keep beating waves of zombies and slowly do puzzle pieces to get more and more of the level open up, and it's actually a really cool mode. But like you've been trying to escape...
I would just play the zombie mode because I actually like that a lot.
And when you finally get to the end of the Alcatraz area, you can play with up to 4 players. So when you finally reach the exit, you see 4 electric chairs just waiting for you, and you're like, whoa. So when you sit on the electric chairs, like you get fried, and then you wake up like in your cell, like the game loops. And it's just like, oh, damn. But then eventually Luminaire looked at the achievements, and one of the achievements was break the cycle. And he was like, what? So it's like, how? That's a thing that can happen. Now I got to look for that. So like, it's kind of cool when stuff like that happens without being spoilers. Like some achievements are hidden, but it's cool when they give you enough of a hint like that.
I do want to call that out as something which is actually my least favorite kind of achievement, which is that when you buy a game and you see the menu of achievements like on PSN or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you realize as you're moving on that like a large portion of the achievements, a non-trivial number of them, are like only in the DLC, and you can't actually play them unless unlock them unless you spend the $20.
Yeah,
in the DLC
that's
pack.
frustrating. Well, what I have noticed though is I don't know if every game does this now, but I noticed with some games, the DLC has its own set of achievements. Mm-hmm. Like with Little Nightmares, all of a sudden I have more achievements than I used to, and it's like, but that was when I installed the DLC.
Right, but that doesn't always, like, it doesn't always happen. Sometimes, like the remake of the first updated version of Lost Planet, I think, had a totally different set of achievements, which only gives you like a fraction of the gamer score for beating the main game, and the entire rest of it, like 99% of the gamer score, is tied up in the multiplayer.
That's what doesn't sit well with me, because, again, I know I'm in the vast minority with this one, but with the PS4, not the PS3, but the PS4, you have to have PS Plus for multiplayer, which means I have to pay to be able to access these achievements. Now, I don't care about multiplayer anyway, so that already kind of turns me off, but like I don't want to have to pay a subscription fee to attempt to get these achievements.
Clearly it's not for you.
I know, but it just bugs me, because I'm one of those people who does like trying to get every achievement in certain games, but then it's like, get X number of kills in PvP, and I'm like, oh man.
Yeah, I mean, I that's how I play games, kind of the same way that you do. Like, I make myself a mental checklist of what I consider to be the goals I want to accomplish when I'm playing this game. Like, when I finish that, then I know that I can put it down, and I won't feel compelled to pick it back up again for a while, or I'll be able to say that I've beaten it, to my satisfaction.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I can put the game down, but I still feel like, I didn't platinum it though. Right. But like, whatever.
Yeah, so like the achievements will play into that a little bit. It might make me do like one or two side quests that I wouldn't normally do, or like maybe go for completion when I wouldn't bother if it's particularly onerous.
Yeah.
Or it'll help me pick which games I want to like really put a lot of time into, but it won't make me play a game in a way that I just like don't want to play.
Yeah, it's unlikely that that'll happen. If there's one thing I don't want to do, but it's that one last achievement, then maybe I will. But if it's like beat the game 10 more times on each other level of difficulty, I'm like, nah, we're not doing that. Actually, that's one thing I really like about Resonance of Fate. I love how often we bring that up on this podcast, but Resonance of Fate, you can platinum the game on your first or second playthrough, and there's like...
play it on the hardest difficulty, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, you don't even have to do that. You can platinum the game on one or two playthroughs, and it's pretty hard to platinum that game, but then there's something absolutely... Like, when you beat the game, you unlock the next level of difficulty, and there's something, like, ridiculous, like 6 more levels of difficulty, but, like, none of them are tied into achievements. I'm like, thank God.
Jesus. That game's hard to begin with.
The game is pretty... I think you New Game Plus it when you do in the next difficulty.
Still.
But even if you don't, at least you're good by then. But, like... Yeah, there's no way. And that game's long anyway, even if you're good. Like, I'm not going to beat this game like 7 or 8 times. Each time it's just the enemies do more damage and have more health. It's so grindy, so no thank you.
Well, yeah, I think we covered that topic pretty good there. So, yeah, I think you could generally say that we like them, but they have to be designed well for their particular thing and bring a
and again, please have whatever the payoff is be something like that's actually integrated to the game, because eventually if there's a DRM free version, don't make that Fez thing happen. You finally did it. Open the door and there's just nothing. Like, that was such a well,
that's clearly your fault.
I don't want to say this, but like Fez also has the heart cubes. Did you ever get the heart cubes?
I'm pretty sure I got everything, because I was being really anal about the guide. Like, the fact that I opened the door was like I did it, and then there was just nothing in the room. I was like, oh.
All right. Well, if you don't remember them, then
I'm pretty sure I got everything. Like
and
was really...
that's the show for this week.
Yeah. But if you really think about the heart cubes, though,
you can't see Vyse's face right now. It's spectacular.
Yeah.
We want to thank our fans that contributed questions, because we never stop answering them. Please keep us supplied with awesome topics that you will hear about ad nauseum by submitting questions about your own on the YouTube and SoundCloud pages. While there, please give me, not you,
please
thumbs
give me
ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. It helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Thursdays on our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the in-depth look at this week in our lives. Finally, you can friend me as VyseTheBold on Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, and Battle.net. Oh, I really need some people to play Destiny 2 with. So please, I would be happy to play one with a fan if they would like to PM me. So go right ahead.
All right, and you could follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You could hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And if you are interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, or even selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, then you might consider swinging by my Patreon channel, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
And you can find me on most major gaming and social media networks as OldManStompy, except on Steam, where I'm something different. Please don't look for me. I'm probably... you probably don't want to find me anyway, because I'm probably throwing another fucking temper tantrum over Final Fantasy 14, so, like, just leave me alone.
All right. Well, we'll catch you on Thursdays, guys.
Until
Thursday,
next time, everyone.
Singular.
All Thursdays.
All
Every
Thursday. Well,
Thursday.
it kind of is.
Until next time, everyone.
Bye.
Cheers.